Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. In our last session, we did up to 14 shloka. Nidra na vidya, grahanam na vidya, grannati kinchin na yathartha bodhe, nidra padartha grahane tarasyat, chideva vidya vilasantya shunya. In our last session, we discussed about the place of various sadhana that is prescribed to the seekers, like puja, japa, karma yoga, karma sadhana, karma kanda, and all that thing that is prescribed. That is according to the evolutionary level of the seeker on the spiritual path. Each and every one of us, we are different physically, mentally, intellectually, and we are at different stages on the spiritual path also. Therefore, the sadhana that each one will require will be not the same. That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. In Sanatana Dharma, each sadhak is considered as unique, and each sadhak needs a unique part to realize the self. So here, unlike in other religions where one size coat is cut and everybody has to fit into that, here the practices, spiritual practices is tailor-made to suit the individual. That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. So everybody need not do the same thing if it is not required. That is an important aspect. So as we evolve further and further, the practices that we are doing in our initial stages, that will drop off of its own accord. So we don't have to think when to drop it. It will drop off of its own accord as we go into subtler and subtler practices. The grosser practices will fall off when it has served its purpose. So it will fall off. As we have seen, when we cross the river, we give up the boat. When we reach the airport, we give up the car automatically. So this is what happens. Then we saw that a mind purified by spiritual practices is fit for the inquiry. Now, all these spiritual practices, the purpose is twofold. One is antakaran shuddhi and the single pointedness of the mind. The mind should be ekagra, single pointed. So then only it will be able to concentrate on, contemplate on higher reality. Then the contemplation begins about all the dvandvas and triputi, the dualities and the triads. The dualities, the pairs of opposites, and then the triads. In every experience, three things are involved: the experiencer, the object experienced, and the relationship between the two called as experience. Knower, known, and knowledge. So the three things are involved. Now, whether it is pairs of opposites as well as the triad, they belong to this world. And the knowledge of the pairs of opposites as well as the experience, the triad, they happen without I. I is required for the experience also. The experiencer is important, the I, the experiencer. And to whom is happening this pairs of opposites? Sometimes I am happy, sometimes I am miserable. So that I is more important than the dvandvas and the triputis. So without I, there cannot be any dvandvas or triputis. And then the inquiry goes into, okay, so I is required for all the pairs of opposites that we see in this world, all the experiences that we go through in this world. And then we have to get to the root of this I who is experiencing this. So that is the line of inquiry. And then abide in that. Having realized that, we have to abide in that. That is the Saddarshan. Now, Ramana Maharshi himself guides through an example that Vidya and Avidya. Vidya katham bhati na chet avidya. So, how will the knowledge be known and how will the ignorance be known? There is no ignorance. Then how does knowledge shine? They are all pairs of opposites. There is no notion without the other. These pairs of opposites, they are interdependent on each other. They don't have an independent existence. So with one comes the other. And in reference to the other only, this is experienced or this is known. Without that reference, this is also not known as what we call it. Without bad, the good will not be known as good. So bad has to be there to know the good. So they are the pairs of opposites. They are interdependent like that. So these pairs of opposites, now Vidya and Avidya, both are thoughts. So ignorance, thought of ignorance and thought of knowledge. And there has to be another entity which supports both. The thought of ignorance also and thought of knowledge also, or rather that which illumines both the thought of ignorance, the thought of knowledge, and the absence of thought of ignorance and thought of knowledge. So it illumines their presence as well as their absence. And that is the real knowledge. That is the pure self. That is the pure awareness. So that is the substratum of all these things, and is beyond that. It is objectless, pure, thought-free, objectless knowledge. Now, inquiry into the triad also, in the 13th shloka it was said, but here again, the importance is there cannot be any triad without I. And this knower I in any triad, the experiencer or the knower of any triad, that I has to be investigated. So, knower is only with reference to known. If the object known is not there, then there is no knower also. If there is no object to be known, there is no knower. So this duality or the triputi exists as long as there is something to be known. If that is not there, then there is no I notion also. In the non-dual reality, there is no I notion. So every experience this triputi is there. If the object is not there, then there is no experience of the object, and therefore there will not be any experiencer of the object also. Then what remains is only the pure self. So this, with the knowledge of the self, this knower known difference also goes away. Knower known difference remains as long as we are ignorant about our own self. So once the self is known, then that is one non-dual reality. And then when dualities and triads end, there seems to be a void. So in the 14th shloka, that clarification was given. Actually, all the objects and experiences, we experience these events and objects only in the waking plane and the dream state, and they are absent in the deep sleep state. Though deep sleep state gives us some kind of happiness, but that is temporary. And even in the waking and the dream state, if certain objects and events give us some kind of happiness, that is again temporary only. So, if we say that if there are no objects, nothing is there, then there is the absolute truth is nothingness or voidness or shunyata or emptiness or something like that. That is what sometimes some people may jump to the conclusion, but that is not the case, because there has to be a knower of that voidness. Voidness of what? That has to be understood. Emptiness of what? Voidness of what? Or shunyata of what? Shunyata or emptiness or voidness of all the dualities, pairs of opposites, triputis and all that thing. So the knower of the absence of these has to exist. So it cannot be shunya or mathematical zero. It has to be paripurna, the one who is present in the absence of all this, the one who is a knower of the absence of all this. So that paripurna is there, complete in itself. So there is no triputi, and that itself is Saddarshana. Purnata is there. It is not Shunyata, but Purnata, infinity. It is not mathematical zero as such. Now, till these were the topics we had covered in our last session. Today we'll begin a new shloka. Now, the relation between the knowledge principle, that is Chit, and knowledge of objects is shown in the 15th shloka. What is that? Satyashchidatma vividha krutishchitam siddhet pruthak satyachito na bhinna bhusha vikara kimusanti satyam vina suvarnam pruthagatra loke. Satyah chit atma vividha akrutihi chit siddhet pruthak satyachitah na bhinna bhusha vikaraha kimusanti satyam vina suvarnam puthagatra loke. So now satya, chit atma satya, satya, the consciousness that is the self is the truth. Now vividha akrutihi chit satyachitah bhinna pruthak na siddhet. The knowledge which is of various forms is neither different nor can it exist without consciousness. So it cannot be Satyachit Bhinna. Without that Satyachit, Pruthak na siddhet. It cannot be other than that. It cannot be separate from that. Loke atra vina suvarnam Pruthak bhusha vikara satyam kim usanti. So here in this world, Loke atra, here in this world, can the various gold ornaments exist without gold? So bhusha, that is bhushanam or ornaments, vikara, the modification of gold, varieties of ornaments. So these cannot exist. Now, self is Sat and Chit. Without Sat, Chit will become non-existent, and without Chit, Sat will become Jada, inert, insentient. So Sat is Chit and Chit is Sat. So it is not two separate things like that. We have seen in our previous text also. They are not the gunas of the self, but it is the essential nature, Satchit. So, like the fire having the burning power, and it emits light and heat as well. Heat will have some kind of light little bit, or the light will have some kind of heat, little bit of heat also. So you cannot imagine a fire without heat and light. So similarly, then Ananda. Ananda, what we experience temporarily in the deep sleep state, but there is no awareness. So that is the egoless state. Now, here, diversity of names and forms, Nama Rupa, are experienced in this world. We experience multitudes of names and forms, living and non-living both. So they are all basically modifications of thought, vritti vikara. They have no separate existence other than the self, apart from the self. They have no separate existence. It is the substratum. Self is the substratum of all that. Now, the very good example is our dream world. Dream world is a projection of the mind. We are having a dream. As a dreamer, the dream world is as much real to us as the waking world. Everything that we see in the dream, there is no reality to that. It is only thought modification. Whether we see a plane or a car or a tiger or a tree or a mountain or a river or ocean or people or children, whatever it is, only thought modification. And one of the characters that we see in that dream, we identify, and it is as if whatever is happening to that character, it is as if happening to us. So we are watching it like a video and we identify with one, like that. So it is all thought modification. That is the thought modification of the individual mind. And of course, the waking plane of consciousness is the projection of the total mind and its thought modification. And it has got no separate existence apart from the self. Now you see there are so many, the example given here about the golden ornament, many a times you have seen this example. So gold is one entity, and in that gold, various names and forms of ornaments are there. Different forms, different name, different shape, different size, then different weight, then different values also, not just monetary value, but sentimental value also attached to those ornaments, but all are basically only gold alone. So seeing in and through all those names and forms, irrespective of the size, shape, weight, and the value and all that thing, what one sees is only gold there. So all these modifications happen. These are all, the projected world is nothing but the projection of the total mind. The Jiva Srishti is the projection of the individual mind. Dream world is the projection of the individual mind. So the gold itself, there is no intrinsic change in that gold, but it appears in different forms, different names are given, and different use and different places it is used. So we have engagement ring, wedding ring, necklace, and anklets, and so on. So it doesn't change. The one who is focused on gold doesn't get carried away by the names of different fancy names and forms, shape and size and weight and all that thing. Similarly, if you look at it, the sunlight appears as mirage water. Sunlight appears like as mirage water, but there is no inherent or intrinsic change in that sunlight. It is because of the flaw in our own vision that sunlight appears as mirage water. That mirage water doesn't wet the sunlight. It is the flaw in our vision. Similarly, we see numerous names and forms, but in reality, it is only gold. Various pots and pans created out of clay or mud, but in reality, it is only mud. So, without going any intrinsic change. Therefore, what has to be understood is that the knowledge and the object of knowledge, the knowledge principle, that is the consciousness and the object of knowledge. So behind all that we see and their knowledge, that is all thought based. And then consciousness is the principle which illumines the objects and the knowledge of object. So every time Ramana Maharshi is separating the self from the everyday experiences that we go through. This is the sadhana. Continuously we are doing the sadhana of separating the self, standing apart and observing. We are so carried away by our day-to-day activities that we do not pause and think. Here, Ramana Maharshi is giving us very good example to focus on the self and keep the other things apart. Now, what does the existence of others mean to me? Now, if as a seeker, I see everything apart, I stand apart and see everything, it is nothing but a thought modification, and the substratum is what is important. So here in the 16th shloka now, Ramana Maharshi says, Tad yushmado rasmati sampratishtha tasmin vinashte smadi mula bhodhat tad yushmadasman mati varjitaika stitir jwalanti sahajatmanasyat tad yushmadoho asmadi sampratishtha tasmin vinashte asmadi mula bodhat tad yushmad asman mati varjita eka sthiti jwalanti sahaja atmanasyat. Now Tad yushmadoho asmadi sampratishtha. Of that and thou, in the I lies the firm basis. Mula bodhat tasmin asmadi vinishtah. Mula bodhat. So, from the knowledge of the origin, when that I has perished, vinashtah, when the I has perished, tad yushmad asmad mati varjita eka. The one without the notion of that thou and I, ekaha, atmana sahaja sthiti jwalanti syat. That natural state of oneself that is shining will emerge. Sthiti syat. Now the first thought is I thought. I is the center of my Jiva Srishti. Without this I, there is no Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti doesn't exist for me. When I'm in the deep sleep state, I is not there, temporarily it is absent, and therefore there is no Jiva Srishti, no Ishvara Srishti, no waking world, no dream world, nothing is there for me. So, after the first person I comes the second person you, he, she, they, and all that thing. So all the relationship depends upon this I. And the relationship is not absolute as regards this I is concerned. It will keep on changing. So that also depending upon the I. So also concept of this and that, tad, idam, and all that thing, this and that also keeps on changing. That is with reference to something which is close, we call as this, something which is away from us, we call as that, this and that. So that will keep on changing. So this book and that table. So I'm closer to the book, so I call this book. I'm away from that table, so that table. Now I change the position, I go towards the table, so this table and that book. So again, these are not absolute, they keep on changing. Their relationship keep on changing. So also concept of all these things near and far and unseen, all these objects keep on changing with reference to this I, and they are not absolute, they keep on changing. So with reference to another person, I as a human being, I as a man, that same person will be friend to somebody, brother to somebody, son to somebody, father to somebody, husband to somebody, and so on. Or profession also, somebody's family doctor or somebody's personal doctor, lawyer or accountant, and things like that. It keeps on changing, the rules keep on changing. But ultimately that I has to be there. I is the same everywhere. And what happens when there is no I? Because of this I keep on becoming. I keep on becoming brother, sister, father, mother, husband, wife, and so on. I keep on becoming, or a professor or an engineer or an accountant and a doctor or businessman. And then I also become, sometimes I'm happy and sometimes I'm sad. That is also becoming. I've become sad now. I've become happy now. I've become miserable now. So these are the becoming. Now, if that I is not there, then there is no becoming. Okay. So if there is no becoming, we remain just as we are, just to be. That's it. Not becoming. This becoming is the problem. Man, as long as he remains as a man, there is no problem. As soon as he becomes a husband, then his problem starts. फिर तो हंसी बंद हो गई, husband. So the thing is that this becoming is the problem. We have to not to become anything, just to be. There is a popular Urdu couplet in which the poet says that ना होता मैं तो क्या होता, ना होता मैं तो क्या होता, ना होता मैं तो खुदा होता, ना होता मैं तो क्या होता, ना होता मैं तो खुदा होता, होने ने डुबोया मुझको, होने ने डुबोया मुझको, वरना न मैं होता न खुदा होता. This becoming has destroyed me. If I remain what I am, I have no problem. When I become something, that is the problem. There is another couplet also. न खुदा था न बंदा था मुझे मालूम न था. न खुदा था न बंदा था मुझे मालूम न था. Neither I was God nor I was man. I didn't know. मैं दोनों इल्लत से जुदा था, मुझे मालूम न था. I was other than these two. I didn't even know. So this becoming is the problem. Don't become man also, don't become God also. Other than that, be as we are. We have to be as we are, pure self. So, having said that, now we will spend some time thinking about time. What does Ramana Maharishi say about time? Shlok 70. Bhutam bhavishyach bhavata swakale tadvartamanasya vihaya tattvam hasya na kim syad gata bhavi charcha vinayka sankhyam gananeva loke. Bhutam bhavishyach bhavat swakale tad vartamanasya vihaya tattvam hasya na kim syat gata bhavi charcha vina eka sankyam ganana eva loke. Bhutam bhavishyach swakale bhavat. The past and the future in their own time they were present. Then tad vartamanasya tattvam vihaya gata bhavi charcha. Of that, present discussion on the past and the future, hasya na kim, will it not be laughable? Syat, hasya na kim syat. Eka sankyam vina ganana iva loke. That is like counting in the world without the number one. So eka sankhya vina ganana iva loke. So now here bhuta bhavishya. Now we are discussing about time. Bhuta, the past; bhavishya, the future. Now time. Let us discuss about this time for some time. What is this time? Time we usually divide as the past, the present, and the future. These are the divisions of time. And then the measurements of time also is there. We measure time. Now, measurement of time also in science, of course, time is defined as the interval between two events. That is in science. Now, in in Vedanta, it is defined as interval between two thoughts. That means if there is no thought eruption, there is no time. When the first thought manifests, also there is no time. No time cannot be measured. Now, when the first thought manifests, then there is a reference point is there, but time yet can't be measured. When the second thought manifests, then the interval between the first and the second thought is taken as time. So therefore, now, if you look at time, time has got vast measurements of time in terms of millennia, then in terms of millennia, 1,000 years, in terms of century, 100 years, decade, 10 years, in terms of a year with 12 months, 52 weeks, further division, each week again divided into 7 days, each day divided into 24 hours, and the smaller units of time. Then come the 60 minutes and the 60 seconds, and beyond the 60 seconds again. Then we have these microseconds, nanoseconds, femtoseconds, and so on. So it goes on like that. So, but after the second, After the minute is over, then it is all second only. Either it is microsecond, nanosecond, femtosecond, but second will always be there. So when was the first second born? Now that is funny, isn't it? First second. Why not first? Because without the second event, without the second thought, there is time cannot be simply measured. So therefore the second has to be there. So smaller the unit, then it goes to the second only. Microsecond, nanosecond, femtosecond, and so on, like that. It goes on. So without that, this second, the time cannot. So the smallest unit of time is second. So time is not born. When we are thought free, there is no time. We are in a timeless state. Therefore, in the deep sleep state, we are in a timeless state because we have no consciousness, no awareness of time. There is no awareness of space also in the deep sleep state because there is no event there. There is no event manifesting also that. So therefore, there is no notion of time. We may sleep for 5 minutes and we may think that we slept for 2 hours. Or we may sleep for 10 hours and we think that we may slept for half an hour or something like that. Because that is absent. Only when the mind becomes active and the thought manifests, then there is notion of time. In the absence of thought, there is no notion of time. Somebody who is in the samadhi state, where there is in a thought-free state, he will have no notion of time. He may be in the samadhi state for days together, but he will have no notion of time. It is like going into sleep and then waking up as if nothing has happened. He was there for a few minutes or an hour or two for that. That's all. So, essence of time is now the present moment. Neither the past nor the future, but it is the present moment. So, like without zero, there cannot be a number system. So zero is at the center, then we have the -1, -2, and the +1 and +2 and so on. So zero has to be there. So this present moment is actually the divider between the past and the future. So the past was at some moment in time, future. It came from the infinite future into the present moment, and then it became the past and joined the infinite past. Similarly, the future also coming from the infinite and then comes to the present moment and to become the infinite past again. But the present moment is the most important thing. And if you look at it, this present moment, now every time this time also we have to look in terms of relativity. For some, the time is very slow. For some, the time is very fast. I have no time, absolutely. And for some people, they are bored. I want to kill time. But that fool doesn't know that eventually time will kill him. Then we have seminars on time management. Can we really manage time? We cannot do anything about time. We cannot slow it. We cannot speed it up. We cannot rewind it. We cannot fast forward it. We can't do anything about it. We cannot increase the time per day. We cannot reduce it per day also. It goes according to its own way. At best, we can manage ourselves with reference to time. So these time management seminars, I don't know what they do there exactly. We cannot manage time. Time manages itself very well. We have to manage ourselves with reference to time. So we are happy, we are sad. Now, if we spend 10 hours with our beloved, it is like a few minutes, a few seconds. But 5 seconds with a nasty person is like 10 hours. Or if somebody is made to sit on a hot plate for 5 seconds, oh, that is like an eternity. So they are all relative. That is what Albert Einstein, the great scientist who came up with the theory of relativity, to explain the theory of relativity, this is the example he gave. So for time, some people, it seems they have got plenty of time to do many things. And some people, though they have enough time, they don't accomplish anything. They just sit and while around their time without accomplishing anything. And some people, they accomplish a lot during the same time. So the time, the quantum of time is same for everybody. But somebody achieves more, somebody achieves less. It depends upon how we manage ourselves with reference to time. And then many people say that I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. It is very simple. We have time for everything. provided it is very high on our list of priority. Then we have time for everything. But that thing will have time, provided it is on a higher level, higher up on the list of our priorities. So this is an important factor we should understand. Some people are bored, they want to kill time and all that thing. But time is like a divider, it is like a dot. Future comes and then becomes the past. And when we say this moment has passed, it is like a dot, and dot is dimensionless. Dimensionless means it is immeasurable. Anything that is immeasurable is infinite. So the reality is not the past or the future, but the reality is this present moment. It is the infinite. It is the immeasurable dimension. It is this, the division between the past and the future. Actually, time itself is an illusion. Time is something that is superimposed on the pure self, because the self itself is beyond the limits of time. Now let us go into this further. Who is aware of time? Now, as we define time, time is an interval between two events or two thoughts. Okay. So, I, the pure self, illumines the absence of thought. I, the pure self, illumine the presence of first thought. And I, the pure self, also illumine the presence of manifestation of the second thought and the interval between the two. And then the unmanifestation of both the thoughts. So I was present before the thought manifested. I was present when the second thought manifested. And I am present when both the thoughts become unmanifest. So I have to be beyond time. I, the pure self, have to be beyond time. I cannot be part of time. Time is only a superimposition on the self. So this is only superimposed. We are beyond time. You mean both the presence and absence of time. So now what is the sadhana that we need to do? Sadhana that we need to do, because our mind continuously goes into the past and the future. It keeps oscillating between the past and the future. Mind doesn't want to be in the present moment. So we have to tie the mind down into activities that exclusively happens in the present moment. Now we are listening to the satsang, so the mind should be here 100%. Then there are certain activities that we can focus on which exclusively happens in the present moment, like focusing on the respiration, one practice of dharana practice, focusing on respiration, focusing on the pulse. So these are the practices that we can do to tie the mind down in the present moment. So living in the present is conscious action, not mechanical movement. To live 100% in the present moment is conscious action, not mechanical movement. Most of the people, like zombies, go through the motions of life. Not like that. With full awareness, conscious action we do, and not as a mechanical movement like a zombie. So this is the way to be in the present moment. Now, having spoken about the time here, now Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi takes us to the next concept, which is space. Now we give place to the thought of time and space in the 18th shloka. Vabhati dikkal katha vinasman dikkal lileh vapurvayam chet nakvapi bhamo nakadapi bhamaham vayam tu sarvatra sada cha bhamaham. Kva bhati dikkal katha vina asman dikkal lila iha vapuhu vayam chet nakva api bhamah na kada api bhamah vayam tu sarvatra sada cha bhamam. Now, among the Panchamahabhutas, space is the subtlest of the Panchamahabhutas. Prithvi Tattva, the earth, then the Jala Tattva, water, that is subtler than the earth is water, then the fire, subtler than the earth and water, then we have Vayu Tattva, and then the Akash Tattva, the space. So space accommodates all the other four elements. Space accommodates everything. All that subtle and gross and everything is accommodated to space only. It is support of all, everything is there. Now we also have seen this when we did the analysis of why I'm not the gross body. There also we have seen the subtle is always a support of the gross. Subtle is more pervasive and the substratum of the gross. So subtlest is the space and therefore it is more pervasive and the substratum of the four other elements. It pervades in and through four other elements and is the support of the four other elements. So it pervades in and through all those four elements. It is all pervading. It is the subtlest of all. Therefore, you find even in a solid looking, an atom also. Atom also 99.999999. We have to put decimal 9, at least 16 nines we have to put. That much percentage of the space in atom is empty space it is. So electron and the nucleus called neutron and proton occupy very little space in that. Rest is only empty space. So solid looking iron piece also, the atom of iron has got this much empty space in that. So the space is all pervading, subtlest of all elements. So that is what it is. It gives avkasha, space to everything. And everything is superimposed on this space. Now again, the direction is also superimposed on the space. East, west, north, south, up, down, front, back. These are all the directions which is superimposed on the space and they are not absolute. They keep on changing. So where we are, according to that, the directions will be. If you are on the earth, then we take the direction according to the rising of the sun and all that thing we say. Now suppose we are in space. So there is no reference point. So what is north and what is east and what is down and what is above and what is left and right, nothing of that kind is there. Where there is even no gravitational pull also, gravitational force is also not there. So these are all only in relation to something and it keeps on changing. They are not fixed. So similarly to wherever the object is there, these things also keep on changing. Therefore, of course, space is measured in as the time is measured as interval between two events or two thoughts. So here the space is measured as the distance between two objects. So one object is one place, the other object in another place. You measure the distance, maybe 5 meters, 10 meters, 1 kilometer, 10 kilometers, and so on. So the bigger space, astral space or the cosmic spaces are measured in light years also. So what is the distance? It is not in kilometers. It is 5,000 light years away, 500 light years away, and so on. So that is measured in light years. So that is the distance measured. So again, space is a relative concept. For a person who is living in a palace, a very spacious palace, huge palace, somebody who is living in a 2-bedroom apartment, and somebody who is living in a hut. Now, if they change places, somebody living in the palace comes to the 2-bedroom apartment, and then he finds it is very suffocating. The space is too small. And somebody living in a hut is pushed into 2-bedroom apartment. This is very spacious. And of course, the fellow who is staying there in the 2-bedroom apartment doesn't make any difference. He doesn't find it very spacious or very constricted. He is there as it is. So it is all again a relative term only. So this concept of space and time, they are all a relative only. It is modification of thought. Because if you look at it, there is no concept of space and time in the deep sleep state. We don't have any concept of space and time in the deep sleep state. So it is only the vritti vikara. It is the modification of thought only. So only in the waking plane of consciousness, when there is an identity with the body, then we have the concept of space and time. In the deep sleep state, when there is no identification with the body, there is no notion of space and time also. So all these words like here, there, then now, and all that thing with reference to time and space, they are all relative only. They keep on changing. There is nothing absolute about that. And everything can change. So, I, the pure self, is beyond the limitations of time and space. The concept of time and space is superimposed on the pure self, because the knower of the concept of time and space is beyond the time and space. In its own self, there is no notion of time and space. So even the knower is beyond the time and space. The time manifestation also happens only when the mind manifests. Without the mind, intellect, equipment manifesting first, there is no concept of time also. And therefore, intellect. So when did ignorance happen? No one can say, because ignorance is anadi, beginningless. Because the concept of time itself happens when the intellect is born, and intellect is born out of ignorance only. When there is an ignorance of the self, then the subtle body and the gross body is created. So therefore, these are only concept. And what is important is I, the pure self. The space that we see outside, that is also limited. Infinite is the Chidakash, the space of consciousness, which is the subtlest, even the subtler than the space, and therefore the substratum of even the space, which is insentient. Now, the enlightened sage seems no different from an ignorant man in his day-to-day activities. Then where lies the difference? So how to differentiate between the enlightened sage and ignorant man? Of course, we should not bother too much about that, because we are still not reached at that level. So, but here now Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi gives some insight into that. 19th shloka. Dehatma bhavejna jadau samanau ekasya dehe rudidipta atma akramya deham cha jagat cha purnah parasya meyam tanumatramatma deha atma bhavejna jadau samanau ekasya dehe rudidipta atma akramya deham cha jagat cha purnah parasya meyam tanu matram atma. Now, deha atma bhave jna jadau samano ekas samano. So, in the state of oneself being the body, the wise man and the ignorant man, they are all the same. Both are the same. Ekasya dehe hrididipta atma purnaha deham cha jagat cha akramya. For one, in the heart, in the body, the self is lit up full, encompassing the body and the world. Then, parasya atma tanumatra meyam. For the other, the self is measurable only as the body. So, for the wise man, the self is that which illumines everything, which encompasses the entire existence. But for the ignorant one, it is measured only as the body. Now, how does a jnani live? A realized master or a jivan mukta, how does he live? Or we have got, does he live only as the pure self? Or will he reply when we call him? Or will he behave like an ordinary human being? Or how can we recognize, is there any external symbol or a mark which marks him out as a jivan mukta or a realized person? So, in Vedanta, first we have to understand, in Vedanta, ajnani doesn't mean illiterate. This ajnani, he may be educated, very well educated, no doubt about it. In Vedanta, ajnani means the one who doesn't have the knowledge of the self, who is not an atma bodhi or atma jnani. That is called as ajnani. So, jnani knows that he is the pure self, other than the body and all that thing. And he is the same within and outside everywhere. As we have seen when we are taking the space, when you are discussing the space inside and outside, it is all the same. Space is a subtlest which supports everything. Consciousness is subtlest which supports everything. As the space supports the Panchama Bhuta, similarly, this consciousness, the pure self, supports the Pancha Kosha also. So the self is subtler than the gross body. Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. So this consciousness supports all the other Pancha Koshas. So it is subtler and more pervasive, and therefore it is as much inside and more outside. So as it is inside the body, it is more outside the body, this consciousness. We are not limited to the body. So Jnani knows that he is the pure self. He is not the body alone. As much as he is in the body, he is outside the body. He is more outside the body. As the space is there within the room, but it is more outside the room, infinite. So he doesn't live as the body. Not living as the body means what? He doesn't have the general craving that an Ajnani has. So he lives in the body, but he pervades in and through the entire existence, not only just the body. So he is not the body, not the Deha, but rather the body is in him, the pure consciousness. So we have seen this space inside the room and outside the room, consciousness within the body and consciousness outside the body. So it is all pervasive. So for a Jnani, he appears only as the body. Like electricity is not limited to the electrical gadget. Electricity is there everywhere. Wherever the electrical gadget is there and functioning electrical gadget is there, electricity is there. So that has to be understood. Similarly, wherever the knowledge of anything is there, there the consciousness has to be there to illumine that knowledge. So an ignorance person lives as a body. You see, that he takes his body only as a self, and therefore he lives as the body, and he has the usual cravings for the body and desires for the body. A sadhaka, a spiritual seeker, now he has got the paroksha jnana. So since he has got the paroksha jnana, that is, he has known by the study of the scriptures that he is not the body, but he doesn't have the aparoksha bodha. He has the paroksha jnana. So in Vividisha Sannyas Diksha, we acquire this knowledge. As a seeker, as an ignorant person comes, as a seeker comes, and he takes the Vividisha Sannyas Diksha where the knowledge is acquired, but that knowledge is Paroksha Jnana. Then the Vidvat Sannyas Diksha happens. In Vidvat Sannyas Diksha, the process is renunciation. Now, when he comes to acquire the spiritual knowledge, Vividisha Sannyas Diksha, he is acquiring this Paroksha Jnana, Parokshatvena. He is renouncing the world and coming for the spiritual knowledge. Once he has acquired this Paroksha Jnana, now he has to convert it into Aparoksha Anubhuti or Aparoksha Bodha rather. Then he goes into the Vidvat Sannyas Diksha. The Vidvat Sannyas means what? Renouncing the knower of this Paroksha Jnana. That is Vidvat Sannyas. So first we acquire that knowledge and then renounce the knower of that knowledge. That is Vidvat Sannyas. So he knows that he is not the body but the self, but he doesn't have the Aparoksha Bodha. So for Jnani, he is the self. He is not the body. He is very well about it, and he pervades in and through everything and being in the entire existence. He is not limited to the body alone. We have got so many examples of great Mahatmas who had no body identity at all. Trailangya Swami, who lived for nearly 300 years, he didn't have any body identification at all. And he used to move around without even wearing a kaupina, just in his birthday suit, without any piece of cloth. But he had no body consciousness at all. If somebody chopped off his hand also, there is an incident where he walked to a tent where Nawab's women folk were there. And then they all started shouting and screaming, a naked person walking through that tent. He just entered and then exited out of the back door of the tent. But hearing the sound, Nawab ran after this Trailangya Swami and chopped off his right hand from behind with his sword. But Trailanga Swami, as if nothing has happened, he kept walking. Then only Nawab realized that he is an ordinary person. And the moment Nawab fell at his feet, he asked, what happened? He said that in my ignorance, I chopped off your hand. So he just put his hand on that, and arm came back again. So this is where there is no notion, where the ego has completely dissolved, no notion of body consciousness is there. He pervades in and through entire existence. Nay, he is a substratum of everything. He alone exists. So like that, so many examples are there. So this Jivan Mukta, this knower of the self, he has no attachment, no cravings, no desires whatsoever. And he lives according to the destiny of his body, Prarabdha. So this is what it is. Gross body's Prarabdha has to be exhausted. We'll come to the destiny and self-effort or free will and all that thing in the coming shlokas. Having said that, what is the attitude of the wise man towards this world of objects and beings, which for us is solidly real? We take this as a real world. And what is the attitude of the wise man who has realized the self? In the 20th shloka, Ajñasya vijñasya cha vishvamasti purvasya drishyam jagadeva satyam parasya drishyashraya bhutamekam satyam prapurnam pravibhantya rupam. Ajñasya vijñasya cha vishvamasti purvasya drishyam jagadeva satyam parasya drishya ashraya bhutamekam satyam prapurnam pravibhati arupam. Now, ajñasya vijñasya cha vishvam asti. The world exists for the ignorant and the wise man. For both ignorant and the wise man, the world exists. Purvasya drishyam jagateva satyam. To the former, that is to the ignorant man, the seen world alone is real. Parasya ekam drishya ashraya bhutam prapurnam arupam satyam pravibhati. To the other, that is to the jnani, the one that has become the substratum of everything, all that is seen, the full formless truth alone shines. So now here, Ajnani takes this Jagat to be the real, Sansara to be the real, and therefore he suffers. For him, Jnani's words are impractical. This is not possible to practice in this world. We have to be practical, you see. So, movie is for entertainment. But if we take something in the movie very seriously, then we get carried away by that. And then instead of being entertained, then according to the character we identify with, we may become miserable also. So for a jnani, this jagat is asat, that is non-existent, or rather unreal. It has got only relative existence, and substratum alone is real, and he is not other than that substratum. Therefore, he doesn't take anything in this world seriously. It is like we come out of dream and go back to the dream, lucid dream, and then we manipulate the dream or we enjoy the dream. We don't get carried away by that. It is like that, a jnani who has realized the self. So then the entire existence is nothing but an encyclopedia of jokes, nothing else. He enjoys the movie called Sansara, plays his role to the best of his abilities. Whatever is designed for his body, mind, intellect to do in this world, he plays to the hilt and doesn't get carried away by anything like that. He is neither carried away by any praises that he gets, nor he gets depressed or miserable by the insults that people may put on him. It doesn't matter to him at all. So, but Ajnani, he wanders into this world and suffers. The famous example of an actor who was very good at acting, taking up the role of Rana Pratap. So somewhere in one place they were having a drama based on Rana Pratap. So this fellow was called to do the role of Rana Pratap. but that day something conked off in his mind. After the drama was over, when he's supposed to give up that dress because that is bought on rent, Rana Pratap's dress. So when in the green room, when they asked for him to give back the dress, he said that how dare you ask Rana Pratap to give the dress, to undress like that. And then with that sword, that fake sword, he went out and got into the bus and was masquerading in the bus as Rana Pratap. The people were all fed up with this guy. So then conductor told something to the driver, and in the darkness somewhere they were there in the forest, and conductor announced Chittorgarh, and Rana Pratap immediately got off. So like that, we as Ajnani, we are like this Rana Pratap, wandering into this forest because of our own ignorance. Forest known as Sansara, because of our own ignorance. Like that. So it is, you see, the problem is that a Jnani acts his role very well. Similarly, God writes lots of comedies, but he's stuck with actors who cannot act funny. This is the tragedy of God. So, seeing in and through different kinds of experiences that one goes through, there are tragedies, comedies, miserable experiences, boring experiences, and things like that, but not allowing it to affect our own self, standing apart and being a witness to that. That is the first practice as a seeker we need to do. If we have to transcend and then go further. The favorite question with many is the place of destiny and self-effort in our life. Bhagwan gets to the root of it. Now, this we'll take up for discussion in our next session. In fact, recently I published an article also, Destiny versus Free Will, in my website, beinghappy.in. Those who have subscribed to that, they can read it in detail. I have given. In the class, I will not be discussing in detail, but you can read that and come. So we'll conclude it today here. Now, anybody has got any questions? We'll take up that for discussion.
Swamiji.
Yes.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Time is also a subtraction superimposed on the real self.
Yes, it is a superimposition only because you are beyond time. You as the pure self is beyond time.
So how do we try to overcome that?
See, we have to constantly contemplate. I gave the way. First, define time. How is time defined as? Science defines it as interval between two intervals, two events. So if there is no event at all, there is no time. Time has not manifested. Time cannot be measured. Similarly, Vedanta defines time as interval between two thoughts. If first thought doesn't manifest, then there is no time. Even after first thought manifests, the time cannot be measured unless a second thought manifests. Now we have a reference point for the first thought and then the second thought. So now we understand the definition of time. This is how time is defined as. Now, who is the knower of the first thought or the first event? That knower has to be present before the first thought manifests.
Okay.
Isn't it? Yeah. And then that person also has to be a witness to the manifestation of the second thought. And then the time is measured. That means this knower of the manifestation of the first thought has to be before time. Its presence has to be before time. Then this is manifested. And where does the thought manifest? Only in the mind intellect equipment. So when the mind manifests, therefore in the deep sleep state, we have no notion of time, not of space. Yes. So this consciousness is before the manifestation of this thought. Yes. So it is beyond time, and the time manifests after that only. If the thought has not manifested, no time has manifested.
Manifested, yes.
Isn't it? So therefore, this so-called time is superimposed on not the self, but we as the body. Then we say that it's superimposed. I am so many years old, and 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, and so on, we say. So this is an imposition on the body, and it is as if it is imposed on me. I am 70 years old.
Okay.
So like that it is.
Yes, Swami. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yes. Any other question?
Swamiji,
Yes.
I want to go to some basics.
Hmm.
You state that, and even the book also says,
Hmm.
that below the multitude thoughts, there's a thought or I notion.
Right.
And if there is no I thought or I notion,
Hmm.
uh, I will not perceive this world.
Right.
Now, in the Jagrat Avastha,
Hmm.
there is a subtle body or say mind.
Hmm.
When Pankaj the waker becomes a Pankaj the dreamer,
Hmm.
mind also comes along with him.
Right.
The name has changed.
Hmm.
Pankaj the waker to the Pankaj the dreamer. We call Vishwam and Tejas and all.
Hmm.
But
Right.
let us the use Pankaj the waker and the Pankaj the dreamer.
Hmm.
My real self is illumining
Hmm.
the Pankaj the waker also and Pankaj the dreamer also.
Right.
Now what happens to the mind?
Hmm.
Because mind is in a full-fledged in uh, waking state, Jagrat Avastha. There is a I notion and then multitude of thoughts come and then I perceive this world.
Right.
In the dream state,
Hmm.
this I notion is, I'm not very clear about that what happens to this first thought or the I notion.
Hmm.
Because unless I have the I notion, even I can't see the dream.
Hmm.
So the dreamer, the Pankaj,
Hmm.
how can he dream the dream world?
Hmm.
This is my question.
The thing is that as a waker, the gross, subtle, and the causal body, all three are active in the waking plane of consciousness.
Hmm.
In the dream state of consciousness, gross body is not active, but the subtle and the causal body is active.
Hmm.
Okay, and subtle body comprises of this mind intellect equipment. So mind intellect equipment is very much present there in the dream state, and the thought manifests in the mind intellect equipment, and that is how the dream world is projected. So the thought is there, very much there, because the mind is in manifest state. It becomes unmanifest only in the deep sleep state.
But Swamiji, let me please let me intervene.
Hmm.
But the quality of the mind and intellect which Pankaj the waker has,
Hmm.
same quality of the mind and mind and the intellect Pankaj the dreamer doesn't have, isn't it?
No, the thing is that two are different dimension of consciousness. One is the waking state, the other is the dream state, but there is a common substratum to both the dream and the waking and the deep sleep state. Okay, so there is a common knower of all the three, and as an ordinary jiva, we go through these three planes of consciousness without knowing that common knower. I know the waking plane of consciousness as a waker, and a dreamer as a dreamer, and the deep sleeper as a deep sleeper only, but not the one common factor in all the three.
Hmm.
Okay, so the waker, the quality of the mind intellect that is manifesting in the waking plane of consciousness is different, because that is a different dimension of consciousness. Here in the dream state, the quality may be different. Therefore, we have different notions. Somebody may be rich and he may dream as he is a poor person. In the waking plane of consciousness, he is a rich man. Like Janaka dreamt that he is begging for food, running away here and there and just seeking for food in his palace. All the time he was sleeping in his palace after a good meal. So the same different the dimension of consciousness is there, and therefore the quality is different. And though I am a rich person in the waking plane, I have dreamt myself to be poor in the dream state of consciousness. So it is the mental projection only. That mind which projected the waking world, the same mind is projecting, but at a different dimension of consciousness. So therefore, and these projections in the dream state are the impressions that we have gathered in some impressions that we have gathered in the waking plane, some samskaras of the past, and some vasanas that are in the subconscious mind. They are the ones which manifest in the dream state. There are certain impressions or vasanas which cannot be fulfilled in the waking plane of consciousness. So that gets fulfilled in the dream state of consciousness. So that is the purpose. Like somebody may have a vasana of flying in the air like a bird. Now that is not possible in the waking plane of consciousness, but it is very much possible in the dream state of consciousness. So that is the purpose also, one of the purpose of the dream state of consciousness. So there are different dimensions and different samskaras and different impressions manifest in the dream state, not the same as the waking plane of consciousness. I hope it is clear.
Yeah, yes, very much clear. Swamiji, then sometimes over a period of time, I feel that I'm very near to the illumination. Sometimes I feel that illumination is quite far. You see? Now is it a play of three gunas?
It is the mind playing tricks.
Okay.
You cannot be near or far. You are that.
Yeah, but the pseudo ego is far or near.
So near and far, this is your mind playing tricks with you. And sometimes I feel I'm near to the illumination. Sometimes I feel I'm far to the illumination. This is the tricks of the mind. Whereas in the reality, you are that illumination.
Okay. But then, Swamiji, let me tell you, one conclusion is definitely I have arrived that this manifested world, including myself, is nothing but a drama which God is playing.
Now you are getting it, you see.
Really, I am telling you, Swami.
And once you understand that, you will never take anything seriously in this world.
Yeah.
Then everything is an encyclopedia of jokes. That is why great realized masters, they are never serious about anything.
Yeah. The other day, Swamiji, I asked Vijuben that do you feel the effect of this world? So she said, I used to feel, but nowadays, after all this study circle, I don't feel. As a matter of fact, I'm laughing.
Oh, very good.
So I said only two persons laugh. Either the enlightened one or a fool.
So there is only a thin dividing line between a jnani and an ajnani. Many times great realized masters were considered as mad people. Only later on people realized that they are great realized masters. They were treated as mad people. There are many examples.
Yeah. And Swamiji, I forgot his name, Mastan Baba. At the Pune station, he's like that, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
If somebody bathes him, he takes a bath. Otherwise, it's fine for him.
Yeah. It doesn't matter to him. He lives his life. So his prarabdha takes care of his body and all that thing, and he is enjoying his life. Mastan, mast hai.
Swamiji, what is the difference between a Avadhut and a person like Ramana Maharshi?
There is no difference. It is all the same. You see,
but why these Avadhut and different names are given?
Different names are given. They are all the same. Basically, if you think, you see in Vedanta Chandavali, in Mangalacharan, the Lakshanas of Avadhuta is given there. And the meaning of Avadhuta is also explained, and the Lakshanas of Avadhuta are also given. Avadhuta is, he doesn't have any desires and Nishkama and all that thing, you see. So all those things are given in that, all the details. But they are applicable to any realized master, it is applicable like that. But generally, Avadhuta is given to people who just appear and their background is not known. Like say Gajanan Maharaj, we don't have their birth date. It is, they celebrate the Prakat Din, they celebrate. So they just appear like that. Then Swami Samartha Akkalkot Maharaj, so he's also Prakat Din is celebrated. Nobody knows their background and birth and all that thing. Similarly, our Shirdi Sai Baba also, that Prakat Din is celebrated. They have no birthdays or anything like that. So they are called as Avadhutas in a way. But Avadhuta has got the meaning is given. In fact, I have given the meaning of Avadhuta also, and then in Vedanta Chandavali, in Mangalacharana, the Lakshanas of Avadhuta are given. But all the great masters are similar only, you can say.
Okay, thank you, Swamiji. Anybody else wants to ask question? Swamiji, many times I feel
Hmm.
your present new group
Hmm.
is like an empty pot. And Padmi and all the attendant this Padmini group,
Uh-huh.
उनका घड़ा भर गया है पूरा. So they don't ask any questions, Swamiji. So I was also one of the members over there, but I asked questions. But at least that what has happened to me?
No, the question should be asked. If there is a doubt, the question should be asked and clarified. You see, that is very important.
So if there is no question, we can do Shanti Path.
So, should we conclude now?
Yes, Swami.
Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.